Hi, friends. It's Mo. It's been a minute. I have missed you. We've been hard at work recording a whole new season of Worse Than You. And we finally have a premiere date on the Cal, babe. Wednesday, January 15th. We figured you might be in need of a little creative inspiration before season 2 drops. So, we're releasing an episode from our new season early, featuring none other than the Prince of Christmas himself, Matt Rogers. And we're not just releasing an audio version of this episode. No, we're not just releasing video clips on social media, which we will be doing. We're releasing a full video version of my conversation with Matt Rogers. Creative process, 3 ways, baby, full coverage. You can head to our show notes for the video link. Also, if you're here for Matt, but new to the show, welcome, cutie. I think you're perfect. The too long didn't read of this show is that every week I sit down with a new comedian to talk through their creative process, the work that means the most to them, and why they make their art. Check out our feed for other episodes with creative forces like Julio Torres, Kat Cohen, Sudi Green, and Demi Adejuibe. I love them all dearly, whether I've known them for 100 years or just the hour we talked. For now, here's my conversation with my dear friend, Matt Rogers. Welcome to Worse Than You with Mo Fry-Pasek. I'm Mo, and every week I'm asking today's most captivating artists how they got their acts together. Ooh. This show is not about their best or most famous or even most financially lucrative work, but it's about the art that means the most to them, that represents them to themselves and their creative process, and why they make their art. So this week, we have an incredible guest because this person, this individual, is first and foremost my family. Second and foremost, also an actor, comedian, writer, podcaster, and television host. You know him from Fire Island, I Love That For You, Have You Heard of Christmas? And Game Show. He's just coming off his Prince of Christmas tour and starring in the Netflix series No Good Deed. And alongside Bowen Yang, he's the host of Las Culturistas. Please, okay, so I'm going to say your name, but then after that, I'm going to say Ready, Set, Show.
Okay.
So when I say your name, it's not time.
Okay.
Please welcome to the pod, Matt Rogers. Ready, set, show!
When you share your food, you share your heart. So what's on your table this holiday season? Save on your festive feast at Kroger with delicious deals on all the holiday classics. Or wow the crowd with something new, like a quinoa stuffed butternut squash. It's sure to add a pop of color to your spread. How about a sweet potato casserole with a crunchy oat streusel topping, made with care for the sweet tooth and the savory tooth? With Kroger, fill your table with love and watch as your guests' hearts get as full as their bellies. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So now it's time.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's kind of like a Dom start. Where
I love
like,
it.
Don't.
And I want you to know, like, I'm drinking a beverage. We talked extensively about, like, beverage culture,
Yes.
like energy drink culture before we got on. And when you were introing me, I took my first drink of the beverage. And I made a face that was like discovering the beverage while you were talking. And I was just like, oh my God.
It's on cam.
So I have to honor the fact that I'm thrilled with this beverage.
Oh my God, that's huge.
Yeah.
So you're, I have a lot of questions because you're thrilled in the way it tasted or the way you feel like the chemicals of it are going to affect your body.
So basically, I think I haven't been able to experience what it's going to do to my body just yet. But based on the taste,
This is the first
I'm excited where this is going.
That's the first date.
Oh God, that great feeling of like it's going well immediately.
It's like I don't know that it's going to make my body feel incredible, but it has a lot of potential.
It has a lot of potential, and I'm usually someone who knows right away.
I am too. Well, you
how
and
it's
I are
gonna
very
make me
intuitive.
feel.
Can I say, I do think you and I have had to fight for that because there is that whole narrative constantly when someone is intuitive of going, you're not giving people a chance. You're not being open. It's
No,
like, no,
please.
I know, bitch, I know who I am.
I'll give people chances
We do that too much.
for so much longer after they've deserved them.
Shouldn't be doing that.
No, certainly giving people a chance is not my problem.
Generous.
And I'll give any beverage a chance.
No, you won't.
Almost any.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like, unless it's a crazy flavor.
Okay.
Well, that also goes with men. If you're giving a crazy flavor off the bat, you might not get a chance.
Anyone who's giving a crazy flavor, in my opinion, like if someone is a crazy flavor, great. If you're trying to push on a crazy flavor to me and trying to perform
that's
one,
interesting.
I will not pick it up.
I would be really interested to find out what you think about this one new Real Housewife of Salt Lake City. Okay. Her name is Bronwyn. She puts herself forth as like a fashionista. And so whenever anyone puts themselves forth as a fashionista, then you are looking at their fashions with that filter. You know what I mean? And I need to know what you think about this person. We'll obviously talk about it later.
Yeah. Well, no, here's my thing. I also, because I think I'm in the same way where I can watch reality TV and be like, this is high art. Because I think in the same way of someone you were growing up with, where a girl would be like, this is my thing. And you kind of be like, I actually don't know if it is. And the people who didn't have to shout it, it was their thing. Yeah. So I actually don't look at her with the judgment of real fashion. I go, oh, it's a girl who says she's fashion.
So there's that. And there's also the fact that like, she is definitely wearing pieces. You know what I mean?
But is she just buying expensive designers, or does she have a spirit of fashion within her?
I think that is one of the narratives unfolding on the season.
Really?
Well, not really, but like for me it is.
Okay.
It's like other narratives are unfolding on the season, like who talks shit about who, very housewifey type things. But certainly like this is very you.
Okay.
This is not something you would do. This is very like something I think that would interest you.
Okay.
So she shows up saying she's a fashionista.
Okay.
And another
Isn't
one
that what Dorit did?
Very much so.
Okay.
So another woman on the cast comes up to her and says, I love your costume. And
I watched this clip.
So she immediately got like really upset because she was like, this is fashion, honey. But if someone comes up to you and is like, oh, I like your costume, is that their fault or is that you in a bad look?
No. Well, first of all, that whole interaction was like everyone was looking to be mad. And
yeah, totally.
That one, I felt embarrassing for all of
Strong flavors all around.
Strong flavors all around. Because it was like, it felt like an improv game where it was like a bunch of like guys in hoodies being like, oh, I'll take that. I'll do the game.
It's my turn to dunk.
Yes, literally. And it was like, chill out, let it breathe.
Yeah.
And I will eventually, because I'm good at this, tie this back into process.
Okay.
But I'm curious.
I knew you would.
Yeah, baby. I'm curious as to how you, in a way, because you are so like joyful and loud and like taking up space, I don't think people realize how much data you take in any given scene. And you're constantly like consuming and you see it and you process it so quickly. Such a sensitive person. So then you're looking at this cast of characters.
Yeah.
Is also seeing them scream, is also seeing pain, is also seeing wanting to be seen. All of those things at once. How do you watch that?
Because I think human behavior is fascinating.
Great. So that's what I'm speaking to.
It is entertainment for me, wholesale. Like, honestly, like, I don't get too involved where I'm like, I hate that person. You know what I mean? Like, I might sometimes, like, in the discourse of it all, the way we all do with shows like that.
But like when you see someone hurting someone else, that, like, you don't think of it.
Well, I think of them as like, this is their job.
Got it. Okay.
And so when they're all doing their job and they're on the emotional spectrum and like doing that, I kind of just think it's interesting. And also I think the way people communicate and the way people participate in conflict and resolution is fascinating to me, which I don't think is surprising.
No, it's not. No, that's what I'm saying with the data collect. I'm saying like, I think you take people in completely.
Yeah.
And
I try.
I mean, I don't even mean in like in a way of like in relationships of being seen. I think like in a true, it's why you're a good actor, is because you can see the way someone does one thing. And that's what kind of this podcast is about, right? It's like you bring your process to us. But I think a gift of a lot of artists that isn't necessarily appreciated by them is how within one piece, you can see the way someone lives their whole life.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of creative people like The Housewives.
Do you?
Yeah, I think that they often don't regulate their emotions, and that I think is fun for
revealing
actors to watch. And I think it's fun for me because I'm like for example.
Oh, is it permission for you?
Yeah, it is a little bit of permission for me because also it's not me. Yeah. I really don't like drama in my life.
No, it's just
I really don't like it.
That's why I'm curious as to how you watch it.
So basically, like when I am watching it, and for example, like I watch someone like Lisa Barlow, who's again on Salt Lake City Housewives, watching her melt down when she realizes that another one of the women has booked her a plane ticket and it's Coach.
Really?
It was a 45-minute.
Is that a genuine reaction?
I can tell you as someone who, and I think you'd agree with me if you saw this, as someone who is perceptive and will take that compliment from you and accept it, I know it was real. And also I could see her getting self-conscious about how upset she was really getting because she knew it was something pathetic to get upset about.
Oh, so in the moment you saw the humiliation.
She was managing equal parts humiliation and determination to not fly coach.
Well, because that's also the reaction to humiliation is you say, I double down.
Hers is certainly that. She's also someone who like never says sorry, etc. It's very hard to get her there. So having her in this moment of in real time being confronted with, seat 34A, and also at the same time, like the knowledge that this is going to look really bad to people watching it.
So many lenses.
A lot going on. And I loved watching her go through it. And I also loved her externalizing that to her husband. Like, it was very interesting.
You know what it is? It's almost a snake eating its tail, because the whole idea is like to catch them authentically, to perform, and then break the fourth wall, and then, all of these things, and then talk shows, podcasts, but bring it into the show. But it's so funny because you think everything's a performance, but it's like, no, because of that, because it is a constant circle, there is so much authenticity within it.
Exactly. I mean, it's like once you agree to have your life documented in that way, I think people don't always realize what they're agreeing to, but it is very good for me, the audience.
Very good for
you. Because even if they're trying too hard, they're going to capture that they're trying too hard. And then once we get to the bottom of that, then we can get to interesting stuff.
This, I think, is a really good quality in any sort of creative, is believing someone exactly as they are. So my example of this is I believe someone exactly as they are, and I believe the best version of them, which makes me a little bit Amelia Bedelia, a little literal, and gets me in a pickle because then I think someone is maybe smarter or cooler than they actually are. Like, I went on a double date. My friend set me up, and we were all like, and my friends are like, cool, they're like me, they're like a same vibe. So I was like, oh, this guy probably will be. Yeah. And we're on this date, and at one point someone was like, oh, so-and-so is a Virgo. And I said to the date, I was like,
As a Pisces.
Yeah. I was like, what's your sign? And this man goes, oh, I'm not gay. And I laughed so hard. Because in good company, what an incredible skewer of toxic masculinity. What an incredible, like, ha ha ha. I know, intuitive arts, they're so rude about them. And like, I thought it was the funniest thing.
But he was being real.
I thought we were in good company. I thought if you'd said that, if I said to you, Matt, like, what's your sign? You said, I'm not gay, I would laugh my ass off. That's so funny. He was so serious.
Yeah.
Which is also so embarrassing for him because I'm like, what? Like,
so it wasn't intended to be a joke?
No.
See, the thing is, like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you're not into astrology, that's fine. I just don't like superiority. Well, superiority is very unattractive.
But it was literally using homophobia to indicate that he was not into something that he deemed not scientific hard fact.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Cool,
like, yeah. And so, but it took me till later because I was like, ha ha ha, and then no one said anything. And then later I was like, he wasn't witty the whole time, but that one time he was pretty sharp. And my friend was like, no.
So he wasn't witty at all.
No.
Yeah. And so did we ever find out what his sign was?
I do think he was a Pisces, and I don't mean to sort of besmirch you as a male Pisces.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's fine.
I feel pretty okay as a male Pisces. I feel like I really walk the walk in terms of what my...
See, my bit is male Pisces is like either the best of the best or the worst of the worst, because you have Osama bin Laden, you have Dane Cook, but you also have Mr. Rogers, Steve Irwin, Jesus. You know, like it's best of the best, worst of the worst.
I'm happy with it. I feel like I can take that Rogers. On. I can take that on as a.
I'm teasing 100%.
As someone who can code switch between best and worst.
Oh, that's healthy. That's really healthy.
It's been my whole life.
Oh, baby, don't we all?
ABC Wednesday. Tim Allen and Kat Dennings star in the new family comedy Shifting Gears.
Dad, I'm broke and I need a place to stay until I figure out what the rest of my life looks like.
So, a couple of days.
When his daughter moves back in.
The last time you walked out that door, you looked back at me and gave me a double bird.
I was 18. The double bird was how I ended all our conversations.
The wheels come off.
Can we try to talk to each other like rational adults?
Have you watched the news lately? That's not a thing anymore.
Series premiere Wednesday, 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
At Sierra, you'll always find apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. But right now, it's clearance time, so you can save even more on everything you need to get active and outside. Visit your local Sierra store today.
this podcast, right, is about the process and creating the stuff. And I think I'm excited for you to be able to speak to that because, one, you make so much and are so quick and prolific in that. And also, I was thinking on the way here, I'm, of course, obsessed with Darren Brown. I made Sudi Go, you know that, to The Mentalist. But he wrote a book about showmanship. And it is this idea of when you are so good and it doesn't look hard, people maybe don't realize how fucking good you are. And I think about that with you because you do so much. You really do. And create so much and in so many different realms that it's like, I want to take a moment to pause and even hear about how that works for you to appreciate it more.
That's so nice of you to say, especially as someone who doesn't always identify as someone who creates a lot.
Really?
But then I think it's because I sometimes don't file a lot of what I do under creation, and I'm being unfair to myself. Like, I don't think of the podcast as creating ever. I never think about that.
I understand that, but it
but
completely
it is. But
and
it is.
It is also because it's that thing where people are like, you're so brave. And you're like, no, it's not brave. I had to do this. I had to have something to say. But it is vulnerable. It is exposing.
I would say vulnerable is
a
a much easier word to use than like brave or courageous, because it's not brave or courageous. I mean, maybe sometimes it's like, you know, you are engaging with someone that's a hero of yours, or
which you have
and
many
in that way you
times.
have to like buck up to it. But I try to lean into like, if I'm ever giving myself credit, it's like, okay, I'll give myself credit for being vulnerable or putting myself out there.
I mean wholesale. I don't even mean in moments. I mean the fact that you are constantly letting people into the mess. If you talk that much, people are into all the moments.
That's definitely true. It's funny, a couple of months ago, I was like, you know, I really wish I had kept a diary. And then I was like, you did.
You literally did. Wow.
And that just was like me again, like not giving myself the credit. Like sometimes, and I do think, honestly, it goes back to when I started. Well, I think it goes back to me as a kid. Like I never could give myself credit because I had such a high standard for myself.
And had to be, right? Because if you broke for a second, right, you might expose an identity or whatever it is.
Right. I mean, it's the classic best little boy in the world, thing. Like,
which you are.
Thank you so much. I leave having gotten all I needed. No, but it's funny. It's interesting because I do realize that now that I have like a career happening, that I definitely have a lot of areas where I can exercise, talent. I can exercise, my voice and attitudes about things. Like I have places where I can go to get this out of my system. I think in like an uncommon way. Like I feel like I can really give myself the credit of like, you threw a lot at the wall and more stuck than didn't. Good for you. Like that's something I can say about myself, but it all came out of like two things: necessity and a total denial that any of it would actually work. Because I thought so many times throughout my life, like, well, I have to give up that dream because I'm this, or I have to think in the immediate and not on the long term, because the long term will just depress me because it's not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, growing up and like not seeing any representation of like me in the future, it actually helped for this reason, because it made me say like, well, fuck it. Like I'm not going anywhere.
It makes you be very present, because that's all there is.
And I think that's like another reason why the podcast is something that I sometimes like mitigate, like that it's a difficult thing to do, or like a thing I've achieved, or like a thing I've cultivated and is actual artistic output, because I allowed it to come so easily to me in the beginning, because I just didn't give a fuck what I said.
So, but I'll say, so I think the way that in that process, I think is the very reason the podcast is successful, because it is that sort of releasing of resistance. And I don't mean you've actively done it. I think you did it in the moment you guys made it, because we were in Brooklyn and New York, and if you do
it was 2016. It was March 2016. It was pre-Trump.
It was
like
pre-Trump.
he was a political figure, but it was pre him being in office.
But it was also during you two, like, doing solo shows at Ars Nova, doing The Pit, directing, doing sketches. Oh, maybe we'll do Above Average. everything possible.
And I actually do think it speaks to a really specific political time that came at the same moment as me coming out of the closet. I mean, 2008 was when Obama was elected famously, and it sort of like made people in New York feel like anything was possible and they could do anything. And there was this like, I could connect it to like that alt moment and that movement that happened in New York.
Sure, I think you
know
could.
what I mean? I think so.
There's an availability for that space to be taken up.
Yeah, because like we were all like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna do. It was just felt like a cultural thing was happening. 2008, 2009, I come out of the closet, I start hitting the ground running and doing like college sketch. In every sense of the
Hammercats,
way.
baby.
Yes, like Hammercats. Like that's when I met Sudie Green, and it was interesting to meet someone who took this shit as seriously as I did.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I took like my stupidity and like the extracurricular stuff I was doing so seriously in a comedy sense, but still not really believing I'm going to have like a mainstream career. Of course I want that, but I'm not thinking of it like that. So I'm putting like all my ideas up. I am out there. I'm very prolific. Once I started doing sketch in college, I was the person coming to the meeting with...
Weren't you the director?
I was eventually the director, I think, because I was that person who was always bringing in the most sketches. Like, my thing was, out of every 10 sketches, you write one is good, so you have to write 20 if you want 2 in the show. Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, I was really... serious and diligent about it. And then when I did become the director of my sketch groups and was like in New York, I was like writing up the text scripts, like doing the most, like spending 2-hour texts at the Pit, the People's Improv Theater, like going through it, like being in it really in such a crazy way, to the point where all throughout my 20s, I'm working so hard, trying so hard. And then the podcast happens in 2016. And by 2017, 2018, it's a success, at least locally.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, not this, but pretty much this. Maybe I don't have to try as hard.
Maybe I don't have to prove to people I'm worthy. I am.
And it was literally the podcast becoming, and this is, I think, also connected to why I don't always consider it an artistic output or something that's a part of my art, because I never thought of me being who I am as comedically valid. I always thought, like, I have to be in a sketch, I have to do characters. I mean, and I was good at that. I actually was, you know, I went to Just for Laughs for characters in 2017.
You playing Sam, the manager of the football team?
I loved playing characters.
Matt has his character that, can I reveal it, or do you want to put it somewhere eventually?
No, I mean, I'll never do her again.
It's devastating. And it was Becky Chacoin's shitty wig that
was not a shitty wig.
It was so, okay, it's spiritually shitty. It was,
by the end, by the end when it was rode hard and put away wet, this wig was legendary, and I actually like...
passed around the community.
I'll say the story at the end of where she is now, but like...
Did we bury her after the tour?
In a sense.
Okay. Because Matt did this character, and it was like the perfect bit. It was so genius, and it takes a great deal of commitment and a great deal of risk because it might not work. But the whole essential bit is this Long Island girl that, you know, Matt grew up with, and again, observes, knows to a T, but adores and doesn't have a judgment of, so can embody all those facts, you know? And so then the whole thing was people would start to laugh when Matt would kind of do a mannerism, and Matt would immediately go, stop!
She was based on, so she was so my dad was a football coach in high school, and a varsity football coach. And one of my favorite people
I managed the boys basketball team.
So you know, so you were this girl.
Ass, absolutely.
So essentially, like, there's a girl standing on the side of the field with a clipboard and a North Face jacket, who's like chilly and cold, but she does the stats for the game. Like, she writes down, like, oh, so-and-so scored a touchdown. This is the score. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and she would, like, it was either one or two girls who were the stat girl. Yeah. And she looked gorgeous. It was about being seen on the field.
But leggings, Uggs.
Very that sort of, like, aughts comfy high school white girl.
I love her. Big car keys.
Yes, and the wig was, we should say, it had very dark roots.
Early ombre.
And like blonde. So but dark roots, and like laid. The wig was laid. And the bit was like, I am giving out the paper plate awards at the end of the season, and the boys weren't letting me get through it. So I said, stop, stop.
But every time the way it was doing that girl where it's like, I'm not here to stop.
But then it became a bit with the audience because they were laughing, and then I was just like, stop laughing. And then it just became this like joyful back and forth.
It was heaven because it was like we were like babies and you were playing peekaboo. Because every time you said stop, we're like, ah!
But that's, I think, why I liked doing the character, though, was because good at it, sure, and like yes, I will again take the compliment that like the performance of her was good and accurate because I had watched this girl.
Yes.
But also it was a way to be myself. Like that was my Chelsea Clark years ago. I took her.
She's an incredible teacher.
I took her. She really was, but she obviously was my teacher years ago. And one of the things I learned from her is when you're creating a character, because I did like an improv intensive at UCB, but it was through the lens of character.
Sure.
And she was like, when you're creating a character, the performance should be not you, but the thoughts, feelings, and opinions can be you. And that is a way to get a really strong take. It's like, I'm playing
you believe it.
This person who's not me. And that's, I guess, like where the leap is for the audience is like, oh, this person is playing this, that, or the other. Bowen actually does this really well on Saturday Night Live, which is, I think, a testament to a lot of the training that we got and a lot of the stuff that we did. The opinions, values, attitudes are yours, but you're performing it as this other person.
And you set yourself up for success, right? Because you find something contrasting to that.
Yes.
So you say like, I'm going to play like a straight popular guy. And then you get to be like, hey, I wish I could be more of myself.
I mean, like one of my really successful characters that I ended up doing at Just for Laughs, but also I did in my SNL audition a couple years later was one of my impressions, because I'm not really an impressionist, but again, when you can
You're
do
in
it
the way
well
where you
enough,
commit so fucking hard that it's funny.
I did a Channing Tatum.
Oh my God.
And the bit was, it was Channing Tatum shooting Magic Mike, and after the pony scene, he stops down and he's so insecure about his acting. He's like, guys, I just want to make sure that like they like me because of my acting and not my body. It was a way to be physical and do the whole Channing Tatum thing. And
it's also Marilyn Monroe, where it's like, don't like me for my skills. And it's like, yeah.
But it did exist in me somewhere. I was like, if I'm him doing this, I am thinking at a certain point, if I'm Channing Tatum, and this runs through his head, like, do they just like me because I'm hot?
Why did you do Foxcatcher? Of course. Yeah, that's literally why. You know what I mean?
And there was something funny to me about that. To me, one of the funniest things about anyone is someone who takes themselves really seriously.
Yes. It's that to capital me is, A actor is what I call it.
Yeah. And that's why sometimes also when I am talking about like process or when I am talking about like
it's indulgent. It feels indulgent.
I am aware of the indulgence of it, but I will say it's some of the most interesting stuff for me because that's me again invalidating what it is.
So, but I think it's every comedian I've had on is like, oh, this is crazy. I'm like, this is
about process, yeah.
But this is the space for it, right? Because we are a little like tongue in cheek of like, this is embarrassing. Like, I don't want to pat myself on the back, and that's what's made us so funny in so many ways. But also at the same time, I go pulling the green curtain back, right? Yeah. In the Darren Brown I'm gonna talk enough that he's gonna be on the pod. In the Darren Brown way, when you show the work you've done, if you don't show it, it's not impressive. If I get to see your process, I actually get to appreciate more how much you're doing.
Well, if you're interested in that, you know what I mean? It's like
or even if you happen upon it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the thing is it's like I love hearing what makes people tick about this stuff. And another thing I will say is it is a little bit like climbing Cringe Mountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I agree.
You have to climb Cringe Mountain to ultimately get to Nirvana, which is one of my favorite things that I've learned. And I learned it on TikTok.
Who said that?
I don't know the TikTok person's name, but later
it's always like
we'll
Tina
do it
6,
and we'll
9,
put
4,
the
10.
name right here on the video.
And actually, we're gonna patch them in.
Yeah, they're here. But in order to like get to a place where you can create the really truthful thing or the really elevated thing or the really funny thing or the thing you're supposed to make, you actually have to deal in the fact that like what you're doing is a little bit cringe. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like if I hadn't climbed Cringe Mountain, like I wouldn't have the album. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like I wouldn't be singing at all.
So I will say my most played of the year this year.
Not most played.
Most played. Because every time I'm stressed, I go, because God gets up to his tricks.
God gets up to his tricks.
It's an incredible song. So it is a year-round album, but it is a Christmas album Matt made. But I listened in Edinburgh when I was really stressed. I was like, there's a magic boy, and his name is God.
It's true. God must have been up to his tricks a lot in Edinburgh.
He was, but God's always up to his tricks. But to me, like...
Good and bad.
Bad news about your mom's health.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
For no reason. But that's a lyric in Matt's song, which you have to stream, listen to, buy, and you're sick if you haven't. But I want to pause all this because, again, like the rate at which you're processing and saying this and even being self-aware of the process and the ability to is remarkable.
Thanks.
And so it is. So I want to even go back to the idea that you're just passively saying, so I would print 20 sketches and I would bring them in.
Yeah.
And I'm going, there's so many obstacles to that happening, which is this
paper?
Good? Oh my God. Ink in college? Staples?
Yeah, exactly. No, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Hey, that was so fucked up and inauthentic and you're not real right now. But it's the idea though that I think about, I did sketch in college and like, it would be like, is this funny? Is this enough? It would be like, oh, this is a stupid idea. And like generatively, what is that for you? Was it anytime you had an inspiration, you do it? Or was it just, I'm going to make a million things. I don't care if they're good or bad.
I honestly always, I kind of thought about it like, if I have an idea, let's put it out there and see if it works. The clay on the mound of it all.
Yes, the Studio Green quote, clay on the mound.
Right. So I actually, I've never heard her say that. Maybe that's testament to how long I've known her. Is it my relationship with her predates her saying
Can
that?
I tell you, she said it on the podcast, the first episode, and then she was like, yeah, that's what I say. And I was like, I've never heard you say that.
I've never heard her say that, but if she...
We've kind of made it canon.
Women,
no, we believe
it.
women, so
no,
you say
but
that.
The spirit of that I do understand.
No, she says do a shitty draft is what she says.
And I think that is important. I honestly think if I have a stupid fucking idea... likely it's one of my better ideas. That's how I experience my own creativity. Is it's like... I think it was literally just like, for example, to talk about like God's Up to His Tricks, the song. I think it was just someone told me they were going through something weird. Yeah. And I was like, God's up to his tricks.
That's so silly.
And I thought, oh, that's a funny comment on like blind faith.
Yeah.
Potentially. And so what I did was I put it on the paper. Yeah, I notes app it. I be notes apping, especially with music. I do voice memo.
Really? Tim does that too. You're just telling me that.
And honestly, two hooks that just came in my head ended up being full songs that I really liked.
Just sort of like earworms that kind of hit you?
Yes. There's a song on my album, and I don't mean to keep pushing us towards that, but there's a song called Everything You Want with Muna.
Oh, yes.
And that just was literally, I was walking down the street a little stoned in New York, and I just heard, go get everything you want. I just like heard that. Go get, maybe even just stayed there. And it was just there. And I think I was actually listening to a country song when I thought of it.
Like, it has a little twang.
It was go get everything you want. Like it was kind of that vibe. And then later in the like process of recording it and fleshing it out, my producer Leland like sort of was like, I think it's a Muna song. And I was like, oh, okay, let's like take it in that direction because they also
that paces it up too.
Yeah, and you know what? It just makes it better for my voice, I think.
Yeah.
It's like more honest for me to sing in a pop R&B sound than it is for me to sing country.
Because it's so impressive when you're up here or down here, but you in here is emotion.
I've discovered that that's kind of where I want to create from and like
and for people listening,
it
was top of head voice pointed to bottom belly voice and then just center chest.
Well, even just learning the differences between that. It's like, now I'm in vocal lessons when I haven't been since college. And it's been so helpful just as someone to know your instrument at all.
But you were giving like icon like early. So to the listeners, Matt actually wrote most of the show in 2017 for the first time.
I would say about half of it is from 2017. Yeah. And then... really only one song from that time am I like, oh, this doesn't hold up.
Oh, really? Which one?
And it doesn't even not hold up. I just don't really want to perform it anymore. It's called I'ma Have Your Back This Christmas. I knew you were going to say that. I know. You're so... And the only reason why I'm a little bit overperforming it is because it deals with, and this is, my Christmas album, like, it exists to like take the piss out of Christmas, you know what I mean? And like celebrate Christmas in a different way,
Yeah.
like by dragging it and being funny about the monoculture
Well,
aspect
also not
of
forcing
it.
this idea of like togetherness. It's like it's a kind of like
But
a
more satirizing
and you come together over being like tee hee hee like
Money.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm gonna have your back this Christmas. It was inspired by the song Girl by Destiny's
Yeah,
Child.
absolutely.
And it's very much like a trio Destiny's Child-esque like R&B song. And I was watching the video, and it was about how like no matter what you go through with your man, we're gonna have your back.
It escalated it. So, yeah.
And so I felt like, oh, it would be funny if it's like whatever your situation is at home during the holidays, if you have like Trumpy or Republican colleagues, don't worry, we'll have your back.
Yeah.
We'll come over and burn down the house.
Yeah.
And it sort of gets out of control for there. It's like a very like literal thing of like, we're going to have your back. Literally, we'll come like post
Yes.
up your like relatives that don't agree with you politically.
It's
like,
somebody offering solace and then be like, no, I have violent intentions.
yes.
Yeah.
And also, and I just don't want to put that out there anymore.
I hear ya.
Because like, you know, it's not even like I don't love the song or don't believe in the song. I fully love the song and fully believe in it. I also have to book 2 other people to come do it with me.
Agreed.
And also it's like, it is the only like explicitly political song in my show, and so I'm like,
And also,
I don't
it's
care.
a 2014 political where it's like you could still go to Thanksgiving and have a conversation with the Trump where it's like, no, that's not the same now.
I mean, literally, like one of the lines is, even if they try to tell you Donald Trump is still president. And I'm like,
he is.
yeah, and like he is gonna be president
Yeah.
again. So it's like I'm over it.
See, I
But everything else has stayed.
Can I tell you? You're 1,000% right on that. Melodically, rhythmically, it is one of the most unique songs.
I love the song.
It's crazy. Like I could talk all day about like percussive songs and and the way that it sort of is mesmerizing and incredible. The way some of those like I call him Josh and Aaron. It's like it's really mesmerizing and fun. So I'm like, oh, can we rewrite the lyrics?
No,
and,
you
like,
know
it's
what?
So
like
fun.
I'm not. Maybe I'll do it like once or twice on the road, like
Or just
when I'm in
rewrite the
LA or
lyrics.
New York.
Yeah.
No, whatever. I mean, like I wouldn't even rewrite the lyrics. I think it's funny. Like it's just logistically and also spiritually.
I
I
hear
just
ya.
don't want to put myself through it every single night, and I just don't want to remind the audience of that every single night.
I hear ya.
You know what I mean? I don't want people to be like, hey, isn't it weird when like you and your family can't speak? Like it's like, yeah, 100%. But it does feel
Yeah,
like
bummer.
a 2017 observation about the difficulties,
Well-
and now those difficulties are really intense.
And it was a 2017 observation that I think lifted air from the room because there were people who felt shame about that.
right.
Who felt like, oh, I'm going to have to go and they don't understand me. So you saying the thing is what comedy's supposed to do is lift the air and go, I'm not the only one. Okay. Or this is fine.
Yeah.
And I can laugh at it. Where it's not doing the same job anymore.
I love the song, and
It's
you should
so-
stream the song.
You just do the song and like me, because Rockefeller Center, I'm Have Your Back, and God's Upstairs Tricks are the 3 songs I listen to.
Those are your faves?
Yeah. And I love every other one, obviously, but I'm saying year round, like those are the ones I love.
That's so funny because as a person who tries to put myself outside of my own work and be like, what would I like? Those aren't the ones I listen to.
We don't have the same taste in music, though.
Probably not.
No, we don't. Because you and Sudi, like, can I say I've been really learning about myself because I have so many friends and I think it's beautiful music. The Munas of the world, the more emotional.
That's my thing.
I'm a little Soviet Slavic in this way where
I
I'm
hear
going,
you.
I'm choosing to be sad.
See, if I'm not choosing to be sad, something's wrong.
No, I choose to. I call it Guantanamo music, where it is beat that
I
might
hear
kill
you.
you.
I hear you. And I
need
appreciate that too. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like it is like, you know, I do find myself.
I think it's smart. People feel through music.
Yeah.
And it's good music.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So back to the writing of it, though.
Yeah.
So in the sketch way where you're like, I'm just putting out there, I think you are also someone who creates via circumstance, right? And like in a very improv way. And I think all of our group of comedians are born of improvising. So I think a lot of discovery comes from bits, and then digging down. So is it like bits with yourself? Is it like,
Yes.
yeah, like you're just chatting to yourself all day?
It's rare that I am like jamming out with someone else and like I'm like, oh, that's an amazing idea. A, because then I would feel like I would have to write it with them.
100%.
And B,
stand-ups do that. They take those ideas. And I'm like,
and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like there was a time years and years and years ago where I was doing a bit with my friend Sean in a Hammercats rehearsal. And it was a Jedi fighting a Sith.
Didn't you guys record this?
Yes.
Yeah.
and in the middle of the bit, I did this thing of like I was the Jedi Knight and I couldn't remember the Sith's name. Like he was my arch enemy, but I was just like, oh God, what is her name again? I know you. I'm losing your name.
Sure.
And I thought that was so funny. And I wrote it and it ended up being the sketch that we did. And afterwards I was like, should I have written it with him? Because that was the bit, even though it was my comedic take. And I was like, I have to write that because that's too good to not.
I don't like that feeling.
No, exactly. And so I am not the most, and I think people might be surprised to hear me say this because I collaborate week in and week out with Bowen.
Yeah.
But it's not the easiest process for me to collaborate, at least in an early stage, because when I'm blue skying, like I really want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Like leave me alone to like figure out what this is and the direction I want to go. I think it is like the director in me that existed in a really major way through the first half of my 20s. It's like I see things really clearly, and when I get convinced that something is going to work in a specific way, I really can't be told otherwise. And I do recognize that as a flaw. And I'm trying to get better about it.
But here's my thing. It's a flaw when it's in the wrong capacity.
It's a flaw when you are putting that attitude before the fact that someone else that you're dealing with, who at this stage in my career, I'm really only dealing with people I really respect in that regard, are also probably right.
So I find myself also self-producing, directing. In acting, when I have an idea where I'm like, no, this is how they'd feel, but I have that self-awareness that Sudi and I laugh where it's like code for actor, like doesn't want to take a risk when a director says something.
Yeah.
But how are you bringing that into acting, right? Because you have strong instincts and you are a great actor and you stepping into that space more and more. So when you're working with good directors or directors maybe that you don't agree with, how are you rectifying those fighting ideas?
Well, I think our experiences with acting right now are a little bit different because you've been doing a lot on stage and you've also been acting in a piece that you wrote that comes from you. Whereas like the acting that I've been doing recently has been very functional in terms of like I'll book a job and I'll be a supporting role in that job. And my scene that I'm playing is usually about someone else. For example, like when you're a supporting actor in these types of shows, like ultimately, if the story is written well, then what you are doing is you are a foil for the protagonist. You are there to serve the story. And in a macro sense, like you're also there as the actor to make sure that that day goes well, that the director, the showrunner gets what they need. So for me, what I do is I try to bring my value in. I'll have ad-libs. I'll have improv. I'll have
lift things up in the way you can.
Attitudes about the characters. I'll have feelings and thoughts, but when I get there, it's my job to hit my mark, say my line, take the note, do it again the way they want, and get us moving.
Okay, so what you just said is the marriage because the people who come in don't have a director sees a working piece, sees where everything has value. You're seeing that coming in and saying, this is my job. Whereas a lot of people come in as an actor and go, what is my character's motivation? Why is he here talking to them? And you're going, okay, no, this is what this is utility-wise. Here's where I can bring emotion into that. That, to me, is a director knowing how to act versus an actor being like, you know what? I'm the lead of my story, and this is just a flash in the pan of my moment, and they're recording their story. You know what I mean?
I think also it's like a thing where once you realize you're doing all that work,
you're doing so much work in that.
All of a sudden, it actually, I think, can result in a less honest performance because that character has not just done all that thinking. Like if you're acting on film, you as the person that's on screen, it is just a moment in their life. Even if it's a major moment in their life, they're not acting at it being a moment. You know what I mean? Like it should feel like it's being discovered. It should feel like it's new. Molly Shannon, actually, when I was on I Love That For You, we were in the makeup trailer together, and it was the first series regular role I had really booked, and I was carrying a lot, leaving set every day feeling like I didn't give my best take, or getting nervous on the way to work because I wanted to do such a good job.
Yeah,
Again,
you wanted
best
to
little
give.
boy in the
Yeah,
world
yeah.
syndrome, like this, and it was so many
And it's never gonna be
incredibly
good enough.
talented people around me. So I was feeling a lot of stress, and people were starting to pick up on it. Like if I felt like I didn't give a good take, I kind of couldn't help myself afterward. I was like, oh man, like I didn't think that was good. And I was taking that home. A couple times I even like cried in the car about whether I was flopping it. And one day in the makeup trailer, actually it was 2 pieces of advice. Molly Shannon turned to me and she was like, how much do you like look at the lines like before you get here? And I was like, you know what? I'm actually learning to not look at them too much. And she said, good for you.
Love.
And not in a way of like show up and don't be prepared.
Terminology of look at the lines, not memorize, not learn. Not,
well,
like,
memorize, look at them. Like I think that all.
But I think that casualness is important because it should be look at the line. Like it should let them live in you and not like memorize them in a way.
Like by all means know them.
Sure.
But don't know them so well where you start to get obsessed with a performance that you may not be giving. Like I've arrived on set a few times over the years over different projects and been really sure that they're going to want me to say a certain line this way, that they're going to respond to this choice, that certainly in my head, the camera angle that I'm seeing.
You're like, I'm fucking nailing.
And then you get there and you're like, no, that's not the angle. That's not the take.
But also,
that's not what it is.
You're not living with maybe what the other actor's giving you then. Because maybe they're not giving you what you're going to deliver off that.
It's so much less, I think, about like what you're being given by the other actor for me.
Really?
And so much more about what there's time for and what the director and the showrunner want. And I want that to be the thing that we get so that, and this is my experience, so that if we have time, we can do my take.
But this experience, I adore, it speaks to how you innately are a producer, a creator, right? It's like it is artistic. It is seeing a whole vision. And like that is what delivers what you deliver. So it's, if somebody else is saying you should do it a certain way, if you're going to do it the way quote unquote acting teachers might tell you to, it's like, don't think about anything, and then all of a sudden it's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's like, don't tell me not to think about it. I already wasn't thinking about anything.
Yeah.
And so it's like this to you, it's like it is the technique. It is what shows you, because Matt Rogers, when Matt Rogers is experiencing in this world, is constantly thinking about, if I'm making this, then I do this, then I do. So when you're doing that for the thing, you are authentically on camera.
Yeah.
You're bringing you.
I've actually felt like my performances have gotten better, and I feel like I'm able to do more when I let go and when I not prepare less, again, that's not, but release my control over what I think is best and what it should be. And this goes back to, our question about like collaborating with people in general. It's like I'm old enough now to know that it's too much stress going in and coming out to be like, I know I'm right about this. And actually one of the first people that I ever like really relinquished control with creatively and comedically was Sudi way back in the day. Like, I don't know if she feels this way, but I feel like back in the day, we did a majority of what she wanted to do. At least back then in sketch comedy, like I trusted her pretty intrinsically. And yes, in Hammercats. Okay. And then a little bit in Pop Roulette. Pop Roulette was also music,
I was thinking
which
of Above Average.
But with all of it, I've always been the kind of person where if I'm working with someone who I trust and like I actually think like what they're saying is probably right, even if I also am right, or I could just be wrong. Like, I will loosen the grip a little bit. She was like the first person I ever really did that with.
And first of all, it has to be someone you trust, right? Do you have to have them bring the idea because your idea is so steadfast that maybe you don't want to bring the other person in? Like, if you are working with someone, does it have to be there? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think that I am never not going to have a take or an idea. So I just think it's not like I'm ever arriving somewhere and being like, well, I brought nothing today. I know I'm bringing something. It's about making room for other people's ideas and convictions about what you're doing, because that helps the overall atmosphere of the process, which ultimately will dictate kind of everything.
Well, what I appreciate and am excited to even hear, because I didn't realize you were doing this, is like the thing that drives your collaboration is getting everyone to a destination. right, is getting to an end result. And you're not maybe attached to what that looks like, but you are attached to the fact that everyone needs to be game to get there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, hey, we're driving. It's like almost like you're on the road trip, you're driving the car.
Yeah.
But, someone else is giving the directions and someone else is like bringing the snacks.
Yeah.
But you're like, okay, but we're driving.
Yes. I mean, that's another thing is like now that I'm at this age and this stage of my life and this stage of my career and everything, it's like I luckily don't have to worry that we're all at least in the same car going to the same place. It's just like, are we using what app are we using for directions?
Well, that's what I mean. And I think that's wonderful because I think it's cohesive. I think it's helpful because then the driver can trust and not pay attention. And the navigator can all of a sudden look for different routes that are more creative. It's like, then it is a symbiotic, but it is fun to understand your innate instinct for whatever role you play because I think we've had to force ourselves to play so many roles early days to get anything. So then to realize where you're naturally resonating is like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Driver. Whoa.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. I've always been like that. I don't know what that is. Like I've always been, I don't know if it's like I gravitate towards like a leadership role, but like it at least feels like I've always wanted to at least seem like I really knew what I was doing. And then at a certain point, I had been validated enough where I felt like I did know what I was doing. Then there came a time during like, this is a whole different podcast, but like the Return to Saturn era, when I was like really shook about whether or not I was right. And now I'm able to like hold it all. Yeah. Like now I'm like, I know I have a really strong take. I know I have a very strong feeling, whether it's acting, whether it's writing, whether it's, putting music together in my head. I know, but also it's like, you also know better than to, while someone else is talking and telling you their differing idea, the whole time in your head being like, no, which I used to be like.
Really?
Yeah. I think that we all have some version of it. Like some people, when they're pitching ideas the whole time, they're like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Like my thing is like, I struggle to be open to other people naturally when I've convinced myself I'm right.
I hear you. I similarly.
And there's pros and cons.
But also it matters the nature of respect in the relationship, which when you're working with so many different people hired in rooms, like Tim and I talk about this a lot, Tim Platt, because we're so at the same level of respect and creation that when there's an idea he's committed to, I go, hey, it's bad. I'm never going to agree. Let's move on.
Really?
And we're that aggressive where I'll be like, Tim, this is how it should be. He'll go, okay, then we're doing neither of these. And it's so clear where it's like, this is one I'm never going to leave. And it's like, great, I'm never going to leave mine. And so that is where we know, okay, that's on the floor for both.
See, and this is also where, and this is a whole different thing, but this is why it's really important to be in therapy and take care of yourself outside of it.
Because then you're not acting out through it.
Hearing what you just said, this is not an idea that I'm responsible. Because I'm not even going to say it the way you said it, because I actually don't believe that you say it like that.
I'm going to tell you verbatim, we say that to each other.
Okay, so you would have to be a very secure person then
we are with
to
each
receive
other.
that.
With each other, we are, yes.
And y'all are both in therapy.
Yeah, 100 times.
So that's what I'm saying is it's like, because this is bad, we're not doing it. Like that could kill some people.
But also not even therapy, our relationship is so secure, not even as individuals. We know that at the end of the day, if something's bothering us, if we're stressed in our personal life and can't show up, we're going to honestly bring that to each other.
Yeah.
And because we've been friends for 10 years, because both him and I learned to have that dialogue, our own therapies through each other, because it was like a platonic creative relationship where it was low stakes to practice that kind of language instead of a relationship or what, you know what I mean? So we're really good at it. Yeah. And we're really securing each other. So if I say, that's a bad idea, or he says, Mo, no, and I drop it because it is not personal. But you're right, because creation, I mean, it's not silly to be like, it's the same idea as sperm and seed or whatever it looks like in gender, but it's creating. You're giving part of you and part of someone else. And you're letting something grow that you don't get to control, that you don't get to say what it is. And it is so much ego dropping. Yeah. Which is so hard because then you also have that inner child of whatever your wound is. It's like, hey, don't leave me if I'm angry. Hey, don't leave me if I'm this or if I wasn't funny. And you're right. That's, I guess, where the therapy comes in and the self-work comes in, because if you're going to have that type of relationship, which is founded on radical honesty, it is intimate, but like,
you as the comedic collaborator who thinks they're in a situation where we've all agreed we are this honest cannot be responsible for that person's inner child crying in that moment.
Oh my God. Can we do a whole other episode on collaborations? Because I think you and I have very similar ideas about like the intimate relationship of this. Because it can heal your life and change you, because I think it is a safer space than romantic relationships, and it can destroy you. What are you going to do personally with it?
It's all about where your value is, and me as someone who put their value in my creativity and my career and like what I wanted out of that area of my life for a very long time. Like, thank God I'm doing the work on myself, and thank God I've arrived at a place where I'm like not, driving home from work every day or like leaving an interaction with a close collaborator like feeling worthless,
or
because
turning
that's
to
not
drugs,
worth it.
or turning to whatever other creatives have done that we've seen.
Yeah, for sure, never turning to drugs.
No, but I mean in a way like where it's like you're ruining your life because you can't experience an emotion. You want to sleep, like, you know what I mean? I'm
trying to sleep and like make food taste better. I want sauce to pop.
Yeah, okay, so I have literally a minute left. Sauce to pop, incredible.
What do you mean a minute left?
We have literally a minute left.
You're kidding.
I know. We have 5 minutes.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I know, isn't it psychopathic? So I know we're in the zone, babe. We're in the zone. But this is why I'm saying we need to have a whole nother episode, because two things I want to say.
Oh my God, now I feel sad. I feel like we were just warmed up, and this is wasting time.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Everything's everything. Okay, so 2 things I wanted to get at. One, the final segment. Has Sudi and I explained to you, thank you for holding my poems?
No.
Oh, it's a good story. It's too long to explain the whole thing, but I'll get you there. But the first thing I wanted to explain, when you were saying that role of like director, or like, wanting everyone, and how you pushed up against people, it's so funny because our greatest gift can also be our greatest, downfall. And you're saying it from the perspective of someone experiencing it, of like, I wish I wasn't this or whatever. And I've always seen it as the reason like you are always the clown amongst all of our comedian friends. Like whenever we're all together, you are the funniest. Like you're making us all kiki. And it's because, Matt, you commit harder.
I do commit.
Than anyone. Like, and Tim and I talked about this. We thought we did. No. You will come in.
Well, that's very kind coming from you both, but
it's not even kind. It's like that's how severe it is. That's how severe it is. Because I look at it, right? Someone will say a word a little weird, right? Do you know how hard you have to commit where someone is like, Toopy, and then for you to just immediately go, Toopy? Do you know how hard you have to commit, Matt? That's what you do. And everyone loses their mind because this man just decided to scream, Toopy.
Well, that's also, I think I'm committed that way in an environment where I am that comfortable.
But to me,
because I'm not like Sacha Baron Cohen, you know what I mean? Like it's like,
no, you're doing it to make us laugh.
Yeah.
And the thing that I say though is like you're committed so hard. So commitment is the same as director, right? You see something working.
Yeah.
And so to me, like that's the highest high of it.
That's such a nice thing for you to notice. Thank you for saying that.
Notice I enjoy it. I get personal joy from it. I go, oh, I love that stupid shit.
Well, too, is it's all about like wanting to make the people that you think are the funniest laugh. My God. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like
when I hear Sudi go, I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Like a big laugh.
You said something like before we were coming on, like maybe it was like yesterday or something about like, you feel I don't get credit for being alt?
Oh shit, we have this whole conversation. Because, so this section calls Thank You for Holding My Poems, and it's a moment or something meaningful to you in art and culture that's quiet, maybe not famous, but affect you in an important way. You don't get credit for being alt because it's like, you were like NYU kid. You were in the scene. You were at the special Without. You played David Bowie there. You did shows at Over the A with me.
I have always felt... So, when you said this, I was like, I didn't realize this is something I needed to heal about myself. Yes, because I feel like my comedy is branded as sort of making fun of mainstream things.
Yes.
And so sometimes I feel like it looks or it's perceived like I am like trying super hard to be like a mainstream comedian. I also think the way I look like is a comedic
but that's
tool
why
I
it's
use.
Subversive. Yes.
But I have always felt like I don't get the credit for being alt because I did come up with everyone. I was a part of that. I was a part of the movement towards that. I was a part of when things became musical. And sometimes I feel like, and I think sometimes like it's because luckily I did succeed, but one of the reasons why I think Las Culturistas is popular is because it takes the piss out of pop culture and the mainstream culture, and we don't have take it too seriously.
It's popular, but it started in an alt spirit.
But I like absorbing the basic shit so that I can then talk about it and take the piss out of it. And I think that one of the reasons why maybe I don't get the credit as an alt comedian is because my comedy satirizes the mainstream. That is one of the reasons why. And I also think because I do take care of myself as a talent in the way of like I can do these types of things. I don't have like an alt skill that I mostly hang my hat on. But I remember going back and being at Over in the 8 and doing my full out comedy pop songs.
Yes. Wait,
and
okay, so
the alt people being like, huh? And I'm like, maybe I'm the most alt.
Baby, you might be. We literally, I'm obsessed with that, full circle. But here's my thing. We talked about on Sam's episode of the podcast, we talked about a sketch you and I did. It was at Over the 8. It was like a bit show at night. It was packed. And I texted you because you were this alt where it's like, let's throw up a sketch idea. It's fucking dumb. And you were my close son. And I was an old Broadway star who is like a hag. Yeah. Do you remember? So the bit was I wanted to do the scene from Flashdance to prove I was still young. Yeah. And so then I would have my close son who was like, clearly I was fucking you, like my son his whole life. And it was like, you'd be like, yes, mommy. And I would have my close son pour the water on me. Yes. And what it escalated to was you ran out of water. I was so mad at you. So you, in order to please me, began spitting on me. Yes, through the whole thing. So then I'm doing Flashdance as you're just spitting, drinking other people's drinks, trying to get more spit. And I'm like, that is so fucking alt.
It was.
And I know I give that value because that is rock and roll. That is like someone taking big risks. That is an imperfectionist. Like that's like, I'm going to do an insane thing.
I mean, Bowen and I, there was a 2-month period where, do you know how many times the word sluck was on my calendar?
Oh.
Bowen and I were doing a broke down, filthy lip sync garbage like
I think I did your makeup for the
slutty
first time
duo,
for that. Yeah.
and like we chopped up so many t-shirts to make our Sluck garments and stuff.
Nasty
but there was a time
trolls.
when like I was booked doing Sluck more than I was doing my solo act, more than I was doing like any improv.
Sluck was really good.
I just always
Liberty
felt
Lounge
like,
at the Ace Hotel.
Yeah.
Sluck.
I mean, I did Sluck. I've done Sluck all over the fucking country.
Yes.
Like, but I will say there was a time when like I would show up with Bowen and do Sluck, and I could feel like the alt comedians look at me like he's not really, because then I would go to UCB and I would also feel it from them. Like he's not really, you know what I mean? But I always felt like I was in the middle of everything because I was code switching my ass off.
Yes.
Trying to fit in anywhere when ultimately like what I really wanted to do was like a fusion of those two things.
You were all of
wanted
them.
form
You were all of them.
and I wanted training.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to be stupid and really queer and push and push people in the audience. Like that was always what I wanted. And what I did.
I love for people to hear this because sometimes when you feel like you're in an alt space and an underdog space and you still don't feel like you fit in, then and you go, okay, what's wrong with me? And it's not you. Maybe you're a bunch of different things. Maybe also those people in that community have the same jealousy that mainstream people do. And we value alt in a way because it's like, it's, you know, cutting your teeth a little bit.
Yeah, that was literally the training ground.
It was, but I really think it's important people hear you say that because even if you're successful at a lot of things, if you don't feel like you're accepted in those spaces, you don't accept them. Like keep trying, keep making your own space, which Matt has done, and that's why it exists.
Well, ultimately too, it's like what happens then is you may end up creating your own space, and Las Culturistas ended up being our space. It's not worth saying like, am I going to be allowed to do this? Just make the space, because then we started doing I Don't Think So Honey live, and it was like 50 people who had felt like that on the stage, and that was ultimately what it was all leading to. That was where it was going. It was like I felt like I didn't know where I belonged for 5-6 years now doing it. Now I'm 26, 27 years old. At the time, we did I Don't Think So Honey live, and I was like, this is the vibe. This is the vibe. It was like,
I feel home here. I feel good.
Yes,
yeah.
It was because literally a space was made out of that feeling of where exactly do I fit.
This is so beautiful.
And community has been the driving factor of my entire career.
100%.
That's why it's important to like do the work on yourself as an individual to be a part of the creative collaborative community, because you want to bring yourself to it. You just can only do that when you wade through the selfie stuff.
1,000%.
The climbing cringe mountain of the self.
Say that. And that TikTok creator, thank you.
Honestly. Honestly, and her name will be right here.
Okay, we have gone over it, but I love you with my whole heart.
Love you too. I could have talked for an hour more. I feel sad.
Me too. I feel sad.
I don't feel sad. I feel happy about the time we had.
I feel sad that the community doesn't get to hear us talk, which we will continue to. Okay, I love you with all my heart, and we end with just letting people a compliment that changed my life that you've seen from the play, which is just telling people, "Oh my God, you're so pretty."
Oh my God, you're so pretty.
Worse Than You with Mo Fry-Pasek is hosted by me, Mo Fry-Pasek. You can learn more about this week's guest and the Worse Than You team by checking out the show and episode copy. Worse Than You with Mo Fry-Pasek is executive produced by Erica Ghetto, Mariah Gossett, and Lauren Mandel for Good Get and Disco Nap Productions. Oh my God, you're so pretty. There's a magic boy, and his name is God.
It's true.